What's up, all you Minties? This is the Uncanny Omar, and welcome to your second dosage of videos today. Today I'm going to be doing an overview of the Neon Genesis Evangelion, the TV Animation Production Art Collection hardcover, and the Dragon's Crown Original Artworks hardcover, as well as these two Dragon's Crown manga, and all of this is published by Udon Entertainment, so please stay tuned. Okay, now before I get started, I do want to give a thank you to the folks at Udon for sending us review copies of these books. These books are already all available, and we're going to look at the hardcover here of Evangelion and see what this art book is, and then look at the Dragon's Crown stuff. Now, this particular book came out, I think, last September, so it came out towards the end of the year, and I know some people are a little confused as to what this is because we don't get a lot of this type of stuff translated here into America. That is the Evangelion art books. There's really a few that we've gotten here. I think Viz translated one, and I think Udon themselves translated another one. Sorry, that was an awesome picture of Shinji. And I gotta be careful when I'm flipping through here in case, I hate this term, that you've been sleeping under a rock. I've always hated that because it sounds like an old man's term, but I guess, you know, in my 40s, I guess I can say that. In case you don't know what Evangelion is, I'm going to be careful flipping through here, make sure there's no spoilers. So this is a really interesting book. It is 432 pages, and it is nothing but these black and white character sheets. That is the only way to describe it. So you have the black and white character sheets, production art, and then the background layouts. So it's kind of what the artists look at to get used to these characters when they're drawing either the frames of animation, the in-betweeners, or the actual cover to the DVD, or I guess at the time the VHS. So it's pretty cool to look at this, and I've seen a lot of this before, but then a lot of this stuff is really new, especially when you're looking at a book that is 432 pages. As you could tell, the dimensions are a lot different than probably a lot of the books that we have here. This reminds me of the Marvel art of MCU stuff, like the Marvel art of Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, just the dimensions are wider. So as an example, here is a trade paperback. So as you can tell, it's a lot longer, not as tall, but the dimensions are definitely bigger than the size of a trade paperback pages, or comic book size. Let's look a little more through here, because Evangelion is just one of those series that will always be in my heart. It's weird to think about how it is now, because I think a lot of people have hyped it up, or just because it's been around since 1996. But watching this as they were coming out on VHS in America, and let me tell you, the VHS was expensive. It was $24.95 for 2 episodes because I got them dubbed. And I remember one time I couldn't find the subtitle, or I couldn't find the dub one, so I had to get the subtitle one. And it was $29.95, and I was so pissed because I couldn't find the one that I usually like. I like the original English dub. Where was I? Anyway, Evangelion. Yes, it's on Netflix now. It's got a new dub. Not sure how I feel about that. The wife and I have watched it, and we're both, I don't know. There's something special about that original English dub. Just like I'm sure a lot of Japanese viewers that watched it originally feel strongly about the cast in the original Japanese release. Not out on Blu-ray here in America, at least. I know in Japan. It came out a couple of years ago. I think in Europe it finally comes out. So hopefully sometime either this year or next year, we will get a proper release of this. And it is, for real, top 10 favorite anime of all time. And I'm sure it's been hyped up over the years. But for the time in 1996, 1997, watching this, a release of a VHS with 2 episodes every month or every other month, there was nothing else like this that I had ever seen in America. And I think that's why it stuck with me. Okay, let's move on to Dragon's Crown, because, yeah, we have a lot to look at here. Both of these books retail for $49.99, and both are hardcovers. Here is where we look at Dragon's Crown. I wanted to show what the spines look like. Here we have Dragon's Crown. It is the exact same dimensions as the Evangelion book. So I like that. Makes it easier to have a place in your Kallax for these, if you use Kallax. Oh, I love that. Looks like a scroll of old times. Now, if you don't know what Dragon's Crown is, it's based on a video game that originally came out on the PlayStation 3 and the PS Vita. And they've had an HD remastered edition come out, I think, on the PS4. And the characters are, well, there's a couple characters here that stand out. Obviously, I'm talking about the Amazon and this fine lady right there, the Sorceress. And it's your Dungeons and Dragons come to life. You go on these quests, and as a matter of fact, yeah, Capcom did release 2 Dungeons and Dragons games in the arcade, and then they were collected in the Sega Saturn, and I think downloadable on the Xbox Live. But anyway, you go on different quests. It's a side-scroller beat 'em up, and it's done by Vanilla, I believe, is the company that put this together, and published by Atlas. It is freaking gorgeous, though. Despite of how you may feel about, the use of some of the female characters and the overabundance of TNA, you can't deny that this is beautiful. Like, a lot of these pictures in here are just drop dead gorgeous. There's several artists that work in this, and I can't flip through all of the books, so we will just move around a little bit. Here we go. Let's look at some of these settings. So it's 208 pages, for the first time translated into English, and I almost bought the Japanese version because I'm a big fan of art books. And honestly, the only reason I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't, was because I forgot about it. But the Japanese version, it is the same dimensions, but it's soft cover. And this looks really good because literally it is sewn binding. So there's that eye that you're used to seeing on the Omnis or any book that has sewn binding. So it has an inner flex. Not that there's any splash pages, but you know the quality of the book is good. The paper quality is thick, and honestly, the paper quality in this seems a little bit thicker and better than the Evangelion book. I don't know why that is. I don't know if that was on purpose to try to keep the Evangelion book maybe a little bit slimmer. But you have everything in here. You have all the artwork from the game, the promotional material leading up to the original game's release. There's just a little bit of behind the scenes. I wish they had done more, but I think it's exactly what you would have found in the original Japanese version. Yeah, this is the countdown stuff here that they had. The official Twitter countdown images. You do have the original. Yeah, here we go. This is the initial design for the look of the game. So, as you can tell, the Sorcerer looks a little bit different than she does in her final incarnation. And again, more of the background. And then the special stuff here. We gotta be careful, making sure there's nothing too naughty. One other thing I will say is that both of these books read from left to right. So they're not right to left, both this and the Evangelion art book. Now let's look at the Dragon's Crown manga. There's only 2 volumes of these, and that's it. That's the complete story. So let's look at a little bit of each one. So this is where the adventure begins. This is volume 1. The retail price of this is $12.99. And you have a little bit of color pages towards the beginning. And it's pretty much the story of the video game. So it's very Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're a fan of fantasy-based movies or anime, or of course playing Dungeons and Dragons, this is pretty enjoyable. Again, the characters are over the top awesome. That is your elf. So you have the fighter, the wizard, the sorceress, the Amazon, the elf, and they're all back together in this first volume of 2. The paper quality here is kind of like that newsprint paper that a lot of the manga uses. And it is glued binding. Just making sure there's no real extras in the back. So there is pre-serialization storyboards and a note from the creator. Let's look at the next book. So here's book number 2. It's based on the original concept by Atlas, and the manga is done by Udon. The beginning has a couple of color pages, and this takes place immediately right after Volume 1. So, like I mentioned, if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, it does have a little humor and, of course, fan service out the wazoo, because it is based on Dragon's Crown after all. This one's 180 pages. Let's see if there's any extras here. Never mind, I can't show the extra because well, let's just say I can't. So, again, this one is $12.99. And that was it. That was the build of these books, the contents of the book, as well as the page count. Let me know in the comments down below if you're a fan of art books. If you want to see my top 10 favorite art books or my top 20 favorite art books, I would love to share that with you all. But I would love to know all of that in the comments down below. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe. We put out videos every day, sometimes two. I'll be doing a live Q&A tomorrow where I will be talking about the DC leaving Diamond Distribution. So we'll be talking about that, and that is tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you for watching. Please, everybody, stay healthy, stay safe out there, and much love to you all.